Hi, everybody. I am so thrilled to be back with you for another episode of Thriving Together. I'm your host, Nitika Chopra. And y'all, I was just like crying so much on this episode. I feel like I didn't cry as much as, I did once the cameras were off, but like I got into it with our guest afterwards a little bit. But I just felt so emotional talking to the amazing Jadah Sellner today. The conversation was so beautiful. We talked a lot about entrepreneurship and feeling worthy enough to make the money that you want in this world, and just so many things that honestly I really needed to hear. I feel like so many people are going through these ups and downs with work and following their dreams, and also like with finances. The economy can feel so unstable and just complicated and all those different things. And Jada just has such a beautiful, like heart-centered approach and way of talking about things. I really appreciated it and I got so much value from it. So I hope you do too. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Jada in just a moment, but I wanted to share a few things about what we're up to right now. So we are going on tour this October, and hopefully by the time this episode airs, we'll have tickets on sale. If you want to check out chronicon.co to make sure and see if our tickets are on sale yet, please go do that and check out where we'll be. You can also always join our mailing list so that you know and you're the first ones to know about different things that we're working on, and ways that you can become a part of everything that we're doing. So I really highly recommend you joining our mailing list. It's the freest option for you. It's free. So please join us there. And then I also wanted to just remind you about the Chronicon community. The Chronicon community makes me cry almost every day because it is filled with the most amazing humans. And we recently surveyed them and asked them what it is they're even getting out of the community. Why do they join? Why do they like, what we're doing? Why do they keep coming back? Do they even engage with the things that we're doing? And 100% of the people that we surveyed said that they come back week after week, day after day, many of them, because it has instilled a level of confidence in them that they didn't even know that they were missing. It allowed them to have more confidence when they navigated their health with their doctors, their families, with their professions in their workplace. It also has allowed them to create friendships that are meaningful and long lasting and have true intimacy, which is something that so many of them were craving before they joined. And when I started the community, I never thought that saying, we were going to give people confidence. I don't think that's the thing that I would have said, oh, this is what we're doing. But then I look back and I see that we have, so many beautiful, beautiful, some world renowned speakers that come and talk to our audience every single week, every single month. We're having people, and we have amazing programming around it. And it does, you show up in your pajamas if you need to, with the camera off if you need to, and you meet people week after week and at our events basically that we do. And it really does foster a sense of community, but that confidence is really life changing. And it's been such an honor. It's been the honor of my lifetime to see that and to see it unfold when we have workshops with amazing authors and they talk about grief and how to process it, how to navigate it. We have amazing workshops every month with my personal nervous system coach that I bring in every single month, and I have her come and do a workshop with us. I do group coaching now in there too, which has been so beautiful. So the workshop that we did yesterday, which brought me to tears, was this beautiful group coaching workshop. And it was me and a bunch of our members, and they got to ask specific questions about things that they're navigating in their life. And it was so beautiful. It was so, so beautiful. We also have scholarships for the community. So if finances is a challenge for you, if it's something that you aren't sure you can afford, I give scholarships to anyone who applies. That is all you have to do is apply and show that you want a scholarship and that you want to show up. And I will read your submission and I will give you a scholarship if you need it. So if you can afford it, please go sign up and get a subscription. The yearly subscription gives you a discount that's embedded in the subscription, which is great. And you can get the community right in your phone, which is also really helpful and really nice. And it gives you a great habit with your phone that's actually positive, right? It's not like social media where it's addictive. You go on the app and go into our community and you see that there is beauty and friendship and so much love in there. So I just wanted to share a bit more about the community with you today. And I hope you'll join us in there because I just absolutely love the Chronicon community. And I wanted to tell you just a little bit about Jadah, our amazing, amazing guest for today. I met Jadah years ago now. I met her a long time ago, and I feel like when I first met her, we talk about this, I was so like just mesmerized by her, and I still am. And because she was starting this company at the time called Simple Green Smoothies. This is this whole brand, and we talk about that a little bit in the show. She tells me a lot more about the behind the scenes of that process, which was really interesting. And she is now the CEO and the founder of Jadah Sellner Media. And she helps visionaries tap into a deeper level of creativity so that they can unlock their next level of leadership and become a thriving business owner, which is pretty amazing. And she does that by drawing on her experience as an entrepreneur for over a decade and mentoring hundreds of women from startups to $5 million a year companies. And she knows what it takes to not only survive hard times, but she also knows the steps that it takes to thrive in business and life. And I feel like she does that with her book, She Builds. She does that with her amazing podcast. And I just love everything that she does. So I hope you'll check out all the links to Jadah and her work in the description below. And you can, I'll check her out and see what she's up to. She also is giving us a free gift, which I didn't even ask her to do. And she was just moved during the call, during our interview. And she said to give us a free gift that's all about manifesting and actually really getting in alignment with the vision that you want for your life, which is so great. So I'm also going to make sure that that's linked in the show notes as well. Thank you all so much for being here. If you like this podcast at all, if you can comment on our YouTube, give us a like, share the podcast, I would love that. I love doing these interviews, and it helps to know that they're resonating with people and people are really getting a lot out of them. So when you share, comment, like all those things, it shows me that the conversations are meaningful to you. Thank you all so much for being here. And here's my episode with Jadah Sellner. All right, everybody. I am so thrilled, so pumped to be here with the amazing Jadah Sellner. Thank you so much for being here, Jadah, like Prada.
Yes, Jadah like Prada. I used to not correct people in pronouncing my name, and they'd be calling me Jadah for over a year. And so that was something that I was like, I need to step into my power and own the pronunciation of my name. So now when I introduce myself, I say Jadah like Prada. I have it in my book bio. I have it on my Instagram profile just to help people because it's a 50-50 chance if they're going to say Jadah or Jadah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can resonate with that. I mean, clearly my name is Nitika. But if you're brown, it's Nitika. So it's like literally I'll like introduce myself to one person and be like, oh yeah, my name is Nitika, like you're knitting. Is that what I always say? Nitika, like you're knitting. And then the next person will be like a brown person. Will be like, it's Nitika,
Yeah.
Totally different. But I was actually thinking about this today because I don't know why I was coming into my apartment building and I was thinking about someone I knew in high school. And then I started thinking about how I used to have people call me Nikki until I was literally in college, which is like a deep, dark secret kind of. But yeah, it's just so interesting, our names and how like they carry so much history, not just with our families, but with us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
And one of the things, I'm jumping right in, but one of the things that also brings up for me with you and your work is something that you talk about on your website, just around like representation matters, which I know so many of us have heard that, but how you really take a stand for representation within the type of work that we do.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm going to have a little bit of a selfish episode with you because I have so many questions.
Yay.
This is going to be like a mini coaching session for
I
Nitika
love
that
it.
I'm going to be like exposed on the internet. But yeah, I think I've always resonated with you and your ethos and the way you lead with love and, all these different things that you share about in your podcast and your book. Because I also lead with love, but I definitely have a lot of moments where I can fight that too. Or
Mm.
like I can feel like I'm leading with love, but like the result isn't there. And so then I'm like, maybe this was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Can we speak to that at all? Just like we'll jump right in.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, right? Like, if I am leading with love, like the evidence that's being built for you is I will not get the results that I want. And I think, especially in the business context, we can lead with love and still do the math of the metrics and what matters to us and all of those pieces. So it's interesting because I have a big gold heart, right? Like I have my book here. There's a big gold heart on the book. It's a business book for women entrepreneurs she builds.
Yeah.
And leading with that seems counterintuitive. Like this is going to be fluff. There's not going to be anything tangible for me to take action on. And so it's not an either or, like love and no money. We really have to, like, the most loving thing that you could do for yourself or anyone in business is to actually know what is enough for you in this season of your life, and knowing the math of how much money do I want to make? How much money do I need to sustain myself? How many people do I need to serve? And what's my capacity of time, energy, resources, all of those. So what I noticed, from people who consider themselves heart centered. I don't even lead with that terminology because I'm like, I'm a downright like business coach. Like I get down to the nitty gritty, the numbers, the metrics, but I'm doing it with a very warm hug wrapped around it. And I notice that people will hide away from the numbers. They'll hide away from doing the math of like, I know I want to make more. I'm like, how much? And they don't know the math for that. And so I talk about that in the book of defining your enough number so that you really know it specifically, and not thinking that that's not a loving thing to do, is to know the math of what would sustain your life. And so I have people do the math of like really calculate your taxes, your insurance, your healthcare, like all of those pieces come into the math. And when we know that specific number, there's something that's very powerful in knowing your enough number, is that you can, one, throttle yourself and not grow and scale just for the sake of scaling. That's hustle culture that makes us think like, I need a 7-figure business. I need an 8-figure. And it just keeps growing. And now it's like the sexy thing is 9 figures and $1 billion and all of these things, which there's nothing wrong with that if that's like your ethos and what you want to create and build in the world. And also when you know your enough number, you can then you can do the math of how to well, how much do I need to sell? How much do my products or my services need to be? And so I think we need that number so we know like I can take a step back and actually take my foot off the pedal for a moment, because I'm actually at that number and I can take care of myself. I can take care of like any family members, loved ones. And then we know like if I'm not at that enough number, what behaviors, action steps do I need to shift? Because truly, like making that enough number is the most loving thing that you can do for yourself and your loved ones. So I know that's a roundabout way of answering that question, but I feel like love and metrics can coexist. I talk about love over metrics, like that matters, but also the math and the money matters too. We just have to put the meaning behind the numbers, the meaning behind the metrics of why do I need that much money, just instead of it being an amorphous goal that you have.
That just felt like a peace bath. I don't know if that makes any sense. What just happened for me? It was like, okay, I could listen to you talk. I mean, that's why your podcast does so well, I'm sure, because we could just listen to you talk all the time about this. But I really love that because this has been really up for me this year. And it's not something I know how to talk about. Like you talk about it so beautifully, but yeah, like I've always led with love, but I have not always married that with metrics. And our dear friend Sarah Jenks would be like nodding in the corner if she heard this conversation. Because she's always like, my best friends call me Nitty. So she's always like, Nitty, you just gotta like figure this out. You just gotta like, make a program, sell the things, like whatever. She's so good at doing that. And yeah, I think what I really want to talk about with you is like, I work with a lot of folks who have chronic illnesses. That is my passion. And it's such important work to me. And so I think that there's been what I'm owning is, and I think this is true for also a lot of people in my community, which is why I want to figure this out for all of us,
Yes.
you know? But I think there's something that happens, like, I'm just going to say it, and y'all, this might be messy, but like, this is what I'm learning, kind of messily, like walking through. I feel like there's like a deficit that happened when I got sick. Like, I got sick when I was very young. And there's like a helplessness that happens almost. There is an actual helplessness because I was young and I needed to be taken care of. But then there's this other helplessness that like society or family or culture or whatever, right? Like adds on top of that. And then when you say like representation matters, I didn't see people who were chronically ill. Like it makes me emotional, but like I never saw people who I knew were chronically ill, like
Yeah.
running companies, right? I just assumed like that's not something I would ever be able to do because I have I have not a lot of energy sometimes,
Yeah.
And I do feel like there's this thing between like illness and money. It's like, I
Mm.
don't know what it is, Jada. I literally, if you looked at my YouTube search history, it's literally like, someone tell me, like, what is this thing? And I guess I could keep going, but I want you to like, what's coming up for you as I say all of that.
Yeah, well, that was one of the reasons why I wrote the book that I did, because as I was reading books on entrepreneurship, they were written by white men who were Ivy League college educated. They didn't have partners or spouses, and they didn't have kids. And I am a multicultural Black, Chinese, and white woman, married with a child, and I don't have a college degree. So when I'm reading every business book and nobody looks like me or has similar life experiences, of course, I'm going to question if it's even possible for me. Like, yeah, but you la da 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 da, right? Like, you don't have kids, you don't have this, you don't have to worry about that. And so that was one reason why I had to write this book, right? Is because representation does matter. We do need proof of possibility. And sometimes we have to borrow small segments of possibility. So, like, a mentor that I found was like, finally, Jonathan Fields. He's a Jewish guy, but he was married and he had kids. So I like, and then like, and led with love, right? Like was very like conscious entrepreneurship. And so like I was borrowing pieces of the puzzle of what represented me. So I think this is a very important distinction for us, especially for those who are managing chronic illness, right? To like, maybe it's not exactly your circumstances, but can we find small pieces and fragments? And when building a business as a mom, or managing a chronic illness, or caring for a dying loved one, right? There's so many things that shorten our time and our capacity. So we have to look at those. And the most helpful thing for me, and what I say to my clients that I coach, is don't put a timeline on your dreams, put a timeline on your actions, because the speed in which a white Ivy League educated dude who does not have kids or a spouse to like tend to is going to accelerate and grow faster. And so my invitation for everyone that's listening, and for you too, is to give yourself permission to be a slow cooker, not a pressure cooker. And I talk about this in the book, right? Of like, we think about a pressure cooker has, I don't know, do you have a pressure cooker?
I do actually. I lost the lid, but I used to.
Yes.
So I know what you're talking about.
Yes, but a pressure cooker has all of these buttons. And I remember getting one and think like people are like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You've got to get one. And then
Change your whole life.
and I would just get the burn notice every time. Like it was so complicated, but and in order for you to get the results on the other side, there has to be this steam, intense steam that is like, coming out, right? But you get this nourishing, yummy, delicious meal. And then there's a slow cooker. Do you have a slow cooker?
I don't have a slow cooker, but I know what you're talking about.
Right. So a slow cooker just has like a few buttons, right? It's like warm, 6 hours, 12 hours. That's it. It's so simple. And you can put all the ingredients in, and then you walk away and you let things simmer, and you get the same results as a pressure cooker, a very nourishing, yummy meal. It just takes longer and things are simmering longer. And so that's my invitation of it. It's like a mindset shift of we can't compare our acceleration of speed of results to come as quick when we are navigating more limited time and energy. And so you need to explore, like, if it's going to take me longer to get the results that I want because my time and resources is more limited than somebody else's, then what do I need to have in place to kind of take care of myself until I reach those results? Does that make sense? Like, it's a dance of patience and trust and trying a lot of different things on, but there's so much that's sold to us of get these results in 90 days and 6 weeks. We all want that quick outcome, but not everyone is meant to navigate the world and execute at that pace. And so if you give yourself permission to be a slow cooker in pursuit of your dreams, but still experiment along the way, you will get there. And also you need to enjoy the process. I know that's so like, but if we are constantly chasing just the desired outcome, we're not going to have any fun along the way. So make the process more nourishing and yummy and fun and a part of who you are versus just doing things because someone said you should do it.
I think that's such great advice. And I think it's very different than what you're like, what other people are saying. What you like how you mentioned there's like all these 90-day quick fix things and these fast track courses, and like you're constantly being sold that. I definitely feel like a lot of times when I'm in like panic mode, I'm just like, okay, Nitika, you're not allowed to buy any of these things until like maybe a week later. And then usually a week later, I don't want to buy any of the things. But one of the things that I'm thinking about, because I know your story and your journey, pretty intimately, and I've known you for so long, is just like how you had like such massive success like early on. And I think that's something that comes up for me sometimes because I always feel like, and I know that there's so many people out there who feel this way too, that like it still feels like that like pop or like that big thing or that huge turning point that like sets you up for success forever. These like tropes that we kind of
Yeah. Will
yeah.
you describe for a moment actually
Okay.
what you perceive as me like popping off and that success? I actually just want you to define it and kind of like tell the story that you know and like the one that you're telling yourself so the listeners can hear as well. And then I will kind of expand on that.
Yeah, like the simple green smoothies thing. I just
Yeah.
feel like I remember like, when Instagram was barely a thing. And I mean, I don't have like all the metrics or anything, but yes, this is my story around it, right? Like I see Jadah and I'm like, who's this girl? Like, what is she doing? And then all of a sudden, before I know, and then I found out you were nice, which like made me very happy. So I always love nice people to get good things. But I just feel like I have this image in my mind of Instagram posts that like would take off and like things would just, I mean, it felt like almost like it was so, it caught like such wildfire. It felt like you almost couldn't keep up with it. I don't know if that's true, but
Yeah.
that was the energy, right? That you see. And I see that with other people too. You'll see like on someone's social media, like, oh my God, like things just really popped off,
Yeah.
And then I vaguely remember, I feel like you then took that and actually created some systems around like capturing some of that, right? So it didn't come across like you were just trying to be like an influencer who like talked about smoothies. You were like, okay, where can we take this first level of success, which is like getting this, kind of, the metric on social media, and then actually turn it into a profitable, like running business with all of
Yeah.
these things. So that's my story about you.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah. So, and I'll just add a little bit more context
Right.
for that. So, yes, I co-founded a company called Simple Green Smoothies with my friend and business partner, and it took off in 2013. You're correct. We did a 30-day green smoothie challenge that was free to our community that grew our email list from 0 to 200, or I would say 2,000 to 200,000 email subscribers in 12 months. And then ultimately it was 355,000 email subscribers without paid advertising or affiliate promotions. We created a product in that same year that was under $100 and generated over $1 million in 2 years. So like all of those things are correct. And Instagram was a big piece of that, Facebook. And those were kind of like our two primary, what I call dance floors, like show your moves on the dance floor. Those were our two primary dance floors. So I want to share that. Like, yes, that happened between like 2013 to 2015. And then we have a traditionally published book deal that was released in 2015. We have over 1,800 5-star reviews. So yes, those are the sexy metrics. And that's what you're comparing my success to. And so I became an entrepreneur in 2008, 2009, when my husband, daughter, and my daughter was 13 months at the time, and we moved to Kauai. So I want to rewind so we can see, like, I became an entrepreneur over, what is that, 2013. So that's like 4+ years before, right? So we're only looking at the iceberg of success and not all the roots at the bottom. And so my husband and I had a brick and mortar business called Little Sprouts Playhouse, and we weren't making enough money. So we had to move into our playhouse and step away from the rent that we were paying there. And then ultimately we liquidated all of our assets and moved into my in-laws' house in California in 2011. So I feel like that's a very important piece of the story to tell, because we're always looking and at the sexy metrics, at the success. And it's like, I wanted to make it with the business that I started in Kauai, and I didn't. I had to move in with my parents, or with my husband's parents, with a kid as a grown ass adult. So then my business partner and I, we were in a mom's group, and we ended up starting a parenting blog before we started Simple Green Smoothies. So Simple Green Smoothies was never supposed to be its own business. Like that wasn't even on the vision board, was to have a thriving health and wellness business. I wanted a parenting blog, do what I love, and have my kid by my side. And then that blog was always negative and never made any money. Like my business partner and I were like in the red, 2,000 something dollars. And we were still testing and experimenting. And a friend of mine who, my healthy dish, she has millions of followers on Instagram and TikTok, but back in the day she had 30,000 followers on Instagram, and that just seems so big. And I was like, show me your ways. But I was also resistant. And she's like, I just feel like so many people are following healthy recipes. You could share your green smoothie recipes on there. And I was like, very resistant, but I did it. And she's like, once you have like 9 photos, a full grid, I'll give you a shout out. And so we went from 0 subscribers on Simple Green Smoothies to 800. And we're like, oh my gosh. And then I met another influencer in person and gave her a green smoothie, and she gave us a shout out, and we grew to 3,000 subscribers. And that was so exciting. So, or some followers on Instagram. And so I just want to share those kind of like micro moments of like building the momentum before it actually took off. We tried to partner with another smoothie company, and they just ignored our email. Like, what if we do this challenge together? I'm so glad we didn't, because then we got all the resources. And so I want to share, like, that was like the test and the experiment and just trying different things. And then I think we grew to maybe 30,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, I think we're on to something here. Maybe we should like build something around green smoothies. And so we created a whole website around this, but that wasn't the vision. That wasn't the plan. I had 2 other businesses that I tried to make fetch happen, and it did not. And then Simple Green Smoothies took off. So that's several years, and also 2 humans, right? Because and it took us 18 months to become profitable, and us experimenting with the parenting blog and then Simple Green Smoothies. So also knowing that math too. And also we reinvested our money into education and team, which a lot of people, one, might not have the privilege to be able to be like reinvesting the money that you're making in a business back into the business. But those were kind of trade-offs of like, I really want this money, but we also need to free up our time if we don't want to resent this business. And so there's a lot of strategic steps that we took. We also didn't take on the book deal until we had our own viable product that could make us money while we were writing the book. Because we're like, that's just a one-off book advance payment. And then what? So there were very strategic moves. And that's what I teach inside She Builds, is like the quarterly planning process of how do we prioritize, focus on revenue generating projects, as well as what I call heart projects and cash projects. And it's such a nuanced dance of execution and of experimentation that you have to really embody before you can get the data or the results that you want. And most people are not committed. They want instant success. They want instant pot success. And sometimes things just take a lot longer. And so that is the difference between those who succeed and those who don't. It looks quick on the outside, but there was so much wisdom being gained on those two first failed businesses before Simple Green Smoothies. And then I sold that company in 2016 to my business partner. And now I do my personal coaching with the women that I work with.
I really appreciate you just bringing it back down to earth a little bit. I think that's really helpful. And I'm thinking of a few people in particular that I know listen to the show and just how they have similar thoughts and questions about, how things happen. And I also know a bunch of people in our community and at Chronicon want to start things and are really sometimes starting from their bed or their couch. They don't have like the energy to invest, or they're on disability and they don't have the financial means to invest. So many different nuances to that experience. And yeah, and I really appreciate you. A lot of times the questions that they ask me are like those very small, like what is the first thing that I can do, And we were talking about this recently about how I was like the girl who cried entrepreneur for a while, like before I actually started my first company, Bella Life, which I had years ago. I made myself not spend $1 on it for the first year. And I like wrote blogs and did research and did all these things that were not anything I had to pay for. But yeah, nobody knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. What were you going to say?
Well, there's a dance that you have to play with. There's seasons where you have more money than you have time, right? So then you can reinvest in those ways. And then there's sometimes where you have more time than you do money. And then I'm sure it's like, what if you don't have time, money, or energy, right? Like those things you just have to look at, like, what are those small pockets of time? And I think that proof of possibility can help you just take tinier steps and move slower and not expect results as quickly when you have limited financial resources, when you have limited energy, when you have limited time. It's just like, all right, that person, Elon Musk, is working, Gary Vaynerchuk is working 80 hours a week, where I've got like 5 to 10 hours a week available. So you can't possibly get those results as quickly. So that's where it comes back to, don't put a timeline on your dreams, put a timeline on your actions. And it is going to take longer, but no one's selling that. They want to sell you the quick. And that's what gets us really confused of like, why didn't I accomplish the thing? They promised me that on the marketing sales page and all of those pieces. And it's like, yes, people who are getting those results probably don't have kids, probably don't have a chronic illness, probably have a very affluent partner who's kind of funding, right? Like all of those things that we're not taking into account for those like very sexy testimonials.
Yeah. I really appreciate that reminder. I just think it's so, so important. And I definitely know I needed to hear that today. So I am just taking that in. And one thing that keeps coming up for me too is as I'm listening to everything that you're sharing is just like the worthiness piece too. I feel like we're sort of, it's a little parallel to what you're talking about in a lot of ways. But I just wanted to sort of touch on that. I know that's a part of the work that you do, but I know you have a unique approach to it. And I just think that I'm learning there's so much psychology to the work around money, especially. And of course, like following your dreams and things like that too, like, having the confidence to do that. But I think the psychology of money is just something that it feels a little like sometimes it feels like very basic and like, oh, just like 2 + 2 = 4. Like this is not that big of a deal. But then when you're like in it in life, it feels really complicated, to be honest. So I guess I just wanted to understand like how you work with people. I know you've got a lot of clients that you work with and or how you talk to people about that worthiness piece around financial
Yeah,
success and health.
it's a big challenge, especially when you're in a dip season in your life. Um, and one of the things that's been most helpful for me and for my clients is if you can give yourself permission to dream and to vision, even when it feels impossible, to imagine a different way of living and being. And when my husband and I were living in, we had just moved out of my in-laws' house, and I was just like, we got to do a vision board. We got to do something. Like, we've got car that's breaking down. Like, we didn't have very much confidence. We were $42,000 in credit card debt, but I was like, I don't know what else we can do, but like, let's dream. And vision boards, Jim Carrey, Oprah, like these people said it might work, all the things. So that piece was my compass in really dark seasons to plant the seed of what I want. So sometimes and there's different ways in for everyone. So I'm only sharing my way in. Like, I didn't do money mindset work to get to that place. What I did was the vision work. That worked for me. I'm a manifesting generator. I'm really driven by knowing what I want. And then it's like, great, now that I know the physical things that I want to have, that I want to experience, now I can put a price tag on that. And so because I'm not driven by metrics, I'm not driven by numbers. So I have to put, again, the meaning behind the metric. So if I get clear on what I want, how I want my life to feel, and what I want to experience in this lifetime, how do I want to serve and give back with my time, my energy, my resources, like really thinking big picture. And I'll actually give a free gift to your listeners where it's a 75-minute where I walk you through kind of writing out your future vision. I share it in the book, but I can give you a video where I'm talking you through step by step and have all of the questions and prompts. So we'll create a special code for your people for that. So I will do that for your people. But that piece of like connecting to a bigger vision, a bigger why for my future self, not knowing if it would ever be possible, but that was what got me out of my funk of like, okay, I'm going to build a business. And I wasn't trying to build a hobby business or a hobby blog. Like, I knew I wanted to make money. I wanted to have a flexible work schedule so I could volunteer in my daughter's classroom. Like, all of those specifics of like, why do you want a business? Why do you want to make money? And so I think adding that specificity was a big driver for me. And also for seasoned entrepreneurs, I feel like a lot of people are hitting plateaus right now, are feeling really stuck and indecisive and overwhelmed and burnt out. They want to sell their business. They want to shut it down. Like, I know this moment so well because I've gone through it so many times of shutting down my first business, closing my second business, and all the identity crisis that comes with that. And I will just say, making time, if anything, you are worth like 75 minutes to dream about what it is that you want and desire in this next season of your life. Give yourself that opportunity. And I think that more clarity and more momentum and more focus and energy to pursue it, then it's not just like, I need to build a business because that's what I need to do. I need to make 6 figures. Like, there's more meaning behind it because you're like, I know what this business will do for my entire life. And I'm not just thinking about strategic business goals. I'm also paying attention to more of the soul goals that I want to exist in this lifetime.
Yeah, I love how you said, like, very specifically when you were visioning that it was connected to like being with your daughter more and like different needs that you have and desires that you have for your overall life. Like you're saying, I feel like I've sort of known that. I've always been a vision board person and things like that, but I don't think I've deepened into that part as much. I think I've, seen the vision. I'm a very spiritual person. I talk to God all day long, and I'm always communicating with God about like my purpose and what is it that, I'm meant to do and how can I serve more people and all those things. So that like end result has always been my North Star, but I think I'm starting to really like value myself enough to be like, yes, okay, you have this purpose that, is here to hopefully support and serve a lot of people, but like not to forget about myself in that.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
such a growth edge.
It's a very sneaky for like service oriented people who want to make a difference in the world. So everything is external and helping other people. And we don't take ourselves into account of that equation, right? It's like, oh, I want my business to make 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, 7 figures. But it's like, we've also got to think about profit and take home and after taxes, and like doing the math for that of like, how much do I need to sustain my life and feel like I'm really thriving, and knowing that number. So I just think that piece is so important. And also connecting to that next level vision, because Nitika, you've already accomplished things that you've put on your vision board, right? You've got a podcast, Chronicon, like you've got tens of thousands of people that you're reaching on Instagram. Like where you are right now, your past self was like, I don't even know if that's possible. And so there's a new level of a vision that you have to connect to, a deepening. And what I've noticed is the more that you do this practice of connecting to your future vision, is as you age and get older, you also like the quality of being starts to arise in there, like the essence and the feeling. I want to feel peace. I want to feel calm. Like there's different nuances, or like, oh, I've already accomplished those. I'm going to keep including that. And I'm just adding like a little extra sprinkling of more that would just inspire me in some way. And so we've got to expand that next level vision for you and kind of reconnect to what it is that you want and the impact that you want to make in the world. And then it's like, I know what I want, I know why I want it, but you still have to surrender and not attach yourself to how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. And that's what I talk about in my book of like, being in hustle culture is you're on this fear cycle, which is fear, FEAR, forcing, exhaustion, avoidance, and rigidity. And so often we're like trying to force like one way to get that result. And there's so many ways you can get there. So we've got to be unattached to the how we're going to get to that what and that why. And then the when, going back to don't put a timeline on your dreams, put a timeline on your action. So you do have to act. Even if you're managing a chronic illness, like we don't have a magic genie. So you do have to take some action. And so it's getting really clear. What is your capacity? What is your energy? When are you most energized in the day? I'm sure you talk about this a lot with your people, but really knowing your capacity for each season is really important. And sometimes when we're facing a new diagnosis, like we have no capacity. And like the number one focus is just to heal. And something I say in my book is you're not hiding, you're healing. And so if you have not been on social media as much, you're tending to your own healing so that you can be refilled up and really serving from the overflow, not from a place of depletion. Because I think what you're saying is like, if I'm thinking about everyone else, I want to make a difference, I want to serve people. And then you're like the giving tree, right? Where it's like you've given so much, but you've given, like you have no branches, you have no leaves, you have no, like you're like just a stump is all that's left. And we can't have that fruitful abundance from that place, you know?
Yeah. And it's been very sneaky because I live a beautiful life. You know, it's not like I'm like not in the home that I don't want. Like I'm live in a home that I love. I have friends that I love. And I actually also, and I say this to my community every time, like we had a workshop yesterday. It was like a group coaching workshop in the app. And I was like crying like I do every time I'm with them. And like I was having not a great day. And then like that 1 hour, I mean, I say this all the time, that 1 hour, even when I was being diagnosed with a rare neuromuscular disease and I couldn't see and I could barely talk, the only thing I would show up for is for the Chronicon workshop every single week, because it's like it just means everything to me, you know, and it does feed me so much. So I think it's been confusing, you know, that I need to like go even deeper because I'm just like, what more? What more can I want?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I think there's something there. So one thing that I'll say is like I hear you saying like where it's like I already have a house that I live in, I have beautiful relationships. So it's also saying like where does wealth already exist in your life right now? Right? Where can I be grateful and still desire more? So I think it's like being in the gratitude and the fullness of your current life and really loving all of those parts allows you to kind of go to the next level of desires without the attachment. It's when we get clingy and graspy and scarcity and all those pieces that we are not actually operating in a way that's going to create flow and momentum in our businesses and our lives. The second piece is really what I call your support squad. So I talk about this in chapter 4 of my book, Gather Your Support Squad. And the way that I do business is very holistic. And it took me over 8 years to figure out, but this is something I have called the She Builds Collective. And it's a holistic approach of growing your business to the next level, the anti-hustle way. So you're not burning yourself out. And there are kind of 3 key components. And one is being able to have what I call like a mastermind group. They talk about this in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, right? Just a community, which is like what your Chronicon, like there's a community that you can lean on of people dealing with very similar struggles and life circumstances and can share resources and all the things that are working really well, what's not working. So we have that, right? Our peers and our colleagues, our friends who are kind of on the same journey as us. And then there's mentorship, right? And that's and so I don't know where you're at. There might be some parts of the support squad that you might be missing in this season because you can't read the label from inside the jar. And so the mentorship is having someone who is outside and can look at the bigger picture of all the moving pieces, that knows where you want to go and can kind of help you map out like those next steps to get there or the next strategies to experiment with to kind of keep the momentum going. And then there's mindset. And this is the part, especially for entrepreneurs, that I think that we ignore is like the emotionality and the emotional roller coaster that we go on in entrepreneurship. So often it's like, and especially for you and I, we're seasoned entrepreneurs. We've taken all the courses and worked with tons of people. We know the strategies. We know all of those pieces, but it's like, for whatever reason, I'm not taking action on it or it's not working. And so that's where the mindset piece goes, is like there might be an emotional block that you are facing resistance or you're avoiding because something hasn't been cleared and you haven't acknowledged. There might be some sadness, some grief, some disappointment, some anger, some rage. Like their emotions will stop you in your tracks. I'm like, until you move this, we're not going anywhere. You can ring around the rosy and try all the strategies, but if you don't clear this emotional stuff, like you're going to be in that avoidance and procrastination and resistance. And so the way that I have the collective designed is that we have all those pieces. Like I am the mentor that's helping you with the big picture strategy, mapping out the next steps. You have the mastermind of other people who are on the same page as you. And then I also have my own personal life coach who I have been working with for years, where I've been processed grief, loss, death, business identity shifts, selling, money, all the things that can kind of clear some of that stuff out so that I can move forward on my big ideas and goals. And so when you can kind of have the trifecta of that support squad of mastermind, mentorship, and the mindset support, that's where you can step into your next level without burning out and really building your way.
That's so powerful. I'm so grateful that you've built that for us because I feel like that's definitely, I can hear a lot of holes in, what I have in my support system, but also just thinking of people that I love, who I know are struggling right now to take things to the next level, or they feel that confusion, like you're saying, with all the plateaus that you're seeing. That is one thing. I don't want anyone to be struggling, but I feel like there's been a lot of reassurance that there's a lot of people in this kind of weird, murky place. And it's not actually like a bad place. I actually don't feel like it's a bad place. At least that's not how I would define it. But it's an unknown place.
Yes, like sitting in the unknown. And that's why I think the support squad is so helpful, because it's really hard to sit in uncertainty. And also the way that our world is designed and all the ads that are coming at us, right?
Totally.
That are like, just selling and speaking to that scarcity part of us.
Yeah.
And I always say that anti-hustle, like having the anti-hustle mindset, is not a destination, it's a practice. And when we are in practice, we need to do that in community. We need to fail and mess up and be messy and not know and be unclear, but be in a psychologically safe space in order to be in that uncertainty and murky place. That's one of my superpowers, is one, creating really safe spaces for people to grow and up level, and also to be in that ambiguous place. But also I attract the most inspiring humans, like like that's such a beautiful energy. And every constellation of people that work with me each year, I'm just like in awe of all the magical connections. And we dance, we like do a lot of somatic work, we breathe, we meditate. Like, I'm not doing business the way that most business coaches do business
Yeah.
growth and strategy.
Oh my gosh, totally. I resonate with that because I feel like that's how I feel about what we do in Chronicon, supporting those folks in similar ways. We do like the nervous system work every month with my personal nervous system coach. And yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much similarity and connection there. And I knew there would be, because as soon as I I reconnected with you, I feel like over the last year, because we hadn't seen each other in so long. And then when I just was like deepening into the work that you're doing, it's like, oh, she's speaking my language. Like, this is so beautiful. So it's nice that, after that pop of success that took time, but did happen, it's just nice to see that you're like deepening into you, and that like that was a chapter, but like this is truly like so much of who you are. And I love to see it. And I could talk to you for 20 more hours, but I know we don't have that much time. I don't think YouTube would let me upload a video that long, but I would love to know, the question I always ask everyone is, what does thriving look like to you?
So one thing thriving looks like to me is actually being able to watch 8 hours of Bridgerton. I talk about this all the time of like, I think the definition of success that we see on the outside world is like you need to be in the 5 a.m. club, right? Like we can actually have lives where we're watching Bridgerton cozy on our couches. And like that to me is also thriving. And also just having the time and space to take care of my health, my wealth, and myself, and my personal relationships and connections that I have with others. So I just did a mid-year check-in and just kind of reflecting on what I've already done for the first 6 months of the year, and just so much time playing and connecting and traveling with loved ones, concerts, being able to see shows, doing sunset walks, like really tending to my own health and vitality and relationships. Like I feel so rich and wealthy in the relationships that I've built with my family, with my husband, with my daughter. And then also thriving is being able to pursue the heart projects. Like I have cash projects that fund my creative callings, and being able to integrate that dance of like, I've still got to work. I can't like not work. I have a family to provide for, but I also have enough spaciousness and time to work on things that are really speaking to my soul. So having the time for relationships that matter to me, having time for my own health and mental health and well-being, and also being able to do work that really speaks to my own gifts and my authentic expression, and being able to play and experiment with creative heart projects that are calling me forward.
I love that so much. And I really relate to the Bridgerton thing, because I watch Friends like almost every day. It's like on TBS every day. And I love that. I sometimes I'll just sit on my couch and I'll be working and I'll be getting lots of stuff done, but I'm sitting there watching Friends like the whole time. And to me, I'm just like, I don't need to be like at an office or like show you that I'm at a desk, or, prove to someone that I'm doing something else. Like, I know I'm just sitting on my couch, like leaving all of this work.
Guilt-free
Yeah.
rest and play, and to be able to turn my work brain off and to unplug, and to also make sure I'm having plenty of time for like my life, like the meaning behind the metrics for sure.
I love that so much. I thank you so much, Jadah, for being here. And I'm
Yeah.
so excited to share this conversation with our audience and just hear the feedback that they have. And yeah, thank you for everything that you
And
do.
let me share the link for that vision workshop
Yes.
that I mentioned.
Yes, I would
So
love
if you
that. And
go
we'll add it in
to,
the show notes too.
yeah, if you go to shebuilds.com/vision, and then what's like a good code that you want to use for your listeners that we can
Should we just
create?
do Chronicon?
You want to do Chronicon?
Yeah.
Okay. Chronic Con. So you want to spell that out for everybody? They know, right?
Sure. It's Chronic, CHRONICON.
Great. So put that in the coupon code and you'll get access to the Vision workshop for free. Carve out some of that time. And I'm hanging out at all the creative social places at Jadah Sellner. So yeah, I think that'll be really fun. I'd love to hear what people's insights and takeaways are. So send me a DM.
Okay, awesome. I will make sure that we have that link in the show notes if you all want to click through it, and it'll be up in the community. I'll share it as well. And I'm going to totally do that. I can't
Yes.
wait to do it. Thank you so much, Shada, for being here. And thank you all for
you.
listening.